This car right beside me is a 2024 Toyota Yaris Cross in the mid-trim V trim. And we recently just took a look at the top-of-the-line S hybrid trim, but today, let's take a look at this version right here. So this video is going to be somewhat of a first look and first impressions on this car, at the same time, a comparison with the S hybrid trim. Anyway, let's first explore the exterior. So this car really has a very sporty design compared to a lot of the other cars in Toyota's lineup. Comparing it, for example, to the Toyota Corolla Cross, this looks a lot more youthful. You have more lines on your hood, you have more like geometric patterns by your grille. It has some sort of a trapezoidal grille, trapezoidal shape. Not really good with geometry, but yeah, that's what Toyota calls it. You still get LED headlights, LED DRLs, and LED fog lights just like the hybrid trim, and you also do still maintain your parking sensors over at the front. Moving towards the side of the vehicle, it's the same too. You still get 18-inch rims, and if you look at the top, you do get a black top, but here's the thing. If you get the Toyota Yaris Cross in the hybrid trim, they will all come as a two-tone with a black top. But for this V trim and even the lower G trim, they come in monotone, with the exception of the V trim in the Scarlet SE color, which has a two-tone design, black top too, just like the hybrid variant. Anyway, the rest of this side, you can really tell that it does sit in between the Rays and the Corolla Cross size-wise. And if you look at your turn signals, not only do you get repeaters on them, but you even get cameras over there, which we will see later on inside the interior. Towards the rear, again, it's exactly the same as the hybrid variant. The only thing you lose out on here would be any sort of hybrid badging. You still maintain your LED lights, you still get a reverse camera, parking sensors, a spoiler effect with third brake light. Everything, well, yeah, it's the same. Now let's open this up, and as you can see, it also still has a power tailgate, which is pretty amazing for its class. And right here, you have a pretty big usable space, usable area for cargo. You can even fold down these rear seats 60/40 for extra space. You also have this parcel cover. And my favorite thing about this car is that when you lift up this false floor, you will even reveal a full-size spare tire. How rare is that in cars nowadays? Now for the powertrain. Of course, you're not going to find any sort of electric motor right here. This is the non-hybrid variant after all. What you have here instead is just a very basic 1.5-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder gasoline engine, making 106 horsepower and 138 Newton meters of torque. Transmission, you have a CVT. You have an interior that may look a little bit familiar to you. That's because they took some aspects from the Toyota Rays and kind of transplanted it onto here, but they made it a little bit more premium. So for example, if you look at your digital instrument cluster, it is exactly the same. This center screen too, with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, plus some sort of a reverse camera with some side cameras on it, like all the types of views that you'd want, you have it here as well. The same is true for your automatic climate control system, but the only difference between this climate control system and what you would get with the Rays is that in the Rays, you can't blow the air, you can't channel the air vents towards your feet. With the Yaris Cross, you can. Your steering wheel, it is tilt and telescopic, and you even have leather covering it. And there's just so much buttons going around inside the steering wheel, because over at the left side, you have your audio controls, you have your controls for your trip computer, but on the right, you have buttons for your Toyota Safety Sense, your advanced driver assistance systems. This means you get lane keep assist, you get autonomous emergency braking, and you even get adaptive cruise control. For this price, that is truly amazing. Now, the rest of the materials inside this car, they really did make use of a lot of hard touch plastic, as expected of a car of its class, but they threw in a couple of soft touch materials. So this middle part of the dashboard, you get some soft touch materials on it. You even have like a blue cloth stripe that kind of just accentuates everything. And that follows through with your leather seats, also with that blue stripes. If you take a look at the side of your doors too, you have some extra padding right there. So overall, it really isn't bad. Just to kind of balance off the somewhat conservative look on the parts of this dashboard though, Toyota has also given you some piano black. It looks pretty good, but yes, it is a fingerprint magnet. Finally, we move back to the seats, and it is surprisingly bolstered. You get a lot of these bolsters on the side and even here towards the top. Feels kind of sporty too, and it's even power adjustable for the driver's side. Now, in terms of comparing this with the Toyota Yaris Cross S Hybrid, the only thing that you really lose out in this car on would be your EV mode button, because it doesn't have an EV mode. You also don't get a 6-speaker Pioneer sound system. Instead, you get a generic 6-speaker sound system. And on top, you lose out on that glass roof. But surprisingly, they did add in some bits. So you have paddle shifters in this non-hybrid model, and even your shifter itself, it doesn't come with a B mode or like a brake mode, but you do have manual shifting up and down. The push start button is also slightly different from the hybrid. This one's all black instead of blue, but you still do maintain a wireless charging pad right here and your USB ports. Also, the Yaris Cross 1.5V comes with this dash cam as standard. Here at the back of the Yaris Cross V variant, well, space is surprisingly good. There is more than enough space. Take note that I'm only 5'6" tall, and this is my driving position. You more or less have the space that you would get with the Corolla Cross, which is quite surprising. And headroom too, it's really not bad. The S Hybrid variant, it came with a glass roof that you couldn't open, by the way, and that kind of ate into headroom, but for this one, you get extra headroom. And this car also gets like soft touch materials here at the side panel. Usually they only do that for the front seats, but well, this one you even have it here at the back, and you even have your own 2 air vents. You even have 2 USB ports down there. They're both Type-C though, and even a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Plus, in terms of differences between this car and the S Hybrid variant, well, the S Hybrid variant had some sort of like mesh or dots or perforations at the back side of the front seat, but for this V variant, it is just solid leatherette. Now we drive the Toyota Yaris Cross in this mid-trim 1.5V, and driving this, since it doesn't have that hybrid engine cutting in from time to time just like what you have with the top-of-the-line hybrid variant, it actually feels much smoother. Power, it's linear, it's not fast, but it can get up to speed. It may have a lower total system output compared to the hybrid variant, but this one, that truly is more than enough. Next, the transmission, it uses the CVT instead of the eCVT, and it also feels somewhat more responsive. And the best part is you can even shift this manually, care of your shifter in the middle with the plus and minus, or you can also use your paddle shifters. Ride, as expected, it is exactly the same. It still is pretty soft. It really is tuned for a comfort-oriented drive. And for your city cruising, this car is not bad at all. As for noise, obviously it doesn't have an EV mode because it doesn't have that hybrid or the electric motor, so you don't have those times wherein it is just whisper quiet. But as it is, wind noise is well suppressed. Road noise, it only starts to creep in around 80 kilometers per hour, pretty normal for this segment. But surprisingly, you would usually expect the hybrid variant of a vehicle to have less vibrations, aside from the motor kicking in once in a while. But this car, this V trim, has less vibrations compared to the hybrid model, which somehow makes this car even more refined. Steering is equally as light, and it's also very similar to a Toyota Raze, but it doesn't feel as artificial as a Toyota Raze. You still have some sort of feedback that you get from this wheel. It still isn't great, it's not sporty in any way, but yeah, at least it gives you that hint of feedback to kind of just remind you where your front tires are pointing. And finally, we talk about the Toyota Safety Sense, which this car has as well, just like the top-of-the-line S Hybrid variant. And usually too, I would expect a car of this price to, number one, not even have adaptive cruise control nor lane keeping assist, and number two, that if ever it does have it, it's going to be really jerky. It's going to feel pretty primitive, like the ADAS functions of cars from like 5-6 years ago. But surprisingly, inside the Yaris Cross, no matter the trim, as long as it has TSS, the adaptive cruise control is very smooth. When the car in front of you suddenly comes to a stop, yes, it will follow it too, but it's not jerky. It really reads the car in front of you pretty well. This Toyota Yaris Cross in this 1.5V trim costs 1,296,000 pesos. For context, the top-of-line S Hybrid costs over 1.5 million pesos. So if you don't need a hybrid car, maybe this is also a good option. Anyway, if you want to check out the hybrid version of this vehicle, just click up here. Now for the colors, you can get this in dark turquoise SE, scarlet SE, is this particular car right here, greenish gunmetal and pearl white.